Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hilariously Unemployed Podcast. I am your host and favorite opportunity seeker, Dana Duckworth, aka the Big Speaker. You know, it's always my pleasure to come before you and talk about a topic that's so near and dear to my heart because I turn my layoff into lemonade. I'm still on a mission to get somebody hired or inspired through this podcast. So I love to come to you all and bring you amazing guests who are on a mission to do the same. Today, what am I excited about? That is Friday. I'm also going to a gala tonight, so I get to put on a gown, y'all. It is Black Diamond Weekend here in Virginia, where I live, and this is hosted by a Black brand. They focus on Black entrepreneurship. So they're having a gala tonight, and my good folks, y'all know I love them, at the Urban League of Hampton Roads invited me to be at their table. So if you follow me on the gram, you'll see how fine I am later today. Going forward, next week, what am I excited about? Well, it's going to be the last time that I meet for this year with the committees that I serve on for the National Apartment Association. So I will be taking my talents to Atlanta on Tuesday to participate in committee meetings and also see the new chair be installed. And my good girlfriend, who is going to be the regional vice president of Region 1, that's my region, her region up there in Philadelphia, and several others. She's going to be inaugurated as well and taking on that leadership role. So I'm so excited for that. And then, because I do the most, y'all know I do, I am leaving Atlanta and flying directly into Houston because your girl is going to Afrotech. Yeah. This is a bucket list conference for me. When I first learned about Afrotech, I was like, oh my goodness, I had to be there. But the organizations at the time, they were not trying to send me there. Well, you know, I have some friends in some really high places, and people said I had to be there. So I will be there representing my podcast, Hilariously Unemployed. If you see me with my tripod and my microphone, and I ask you, have you ever been hilariously unemployed? Just know you're going to be clipped up and put in some video on my social media. So look out for me and be prepared to answer that question, y'all. Now, without further ado, I'd like to bring my guest to the stage and welcome her to y'all. Like, I reached out to this woman a year ago. And I was like, oh my goodness, because she was, when I was just doing LinkedIn audio, she was in the audience one day. And I literally fangirled out. And I was like, Joy is in the audience, listen to me in my show. And I was like, wow. So I, of course, wanted her to be on the show, but you know, life gets hectic and life gets busy. But today I have the pleasure of actually welcoming her to the show. Joy, the joyful recruiter. Say hello to the hilarious Joy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Dana. I appreciate the introduction. So happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. When I saw you listening to my event, I was like, a top voice, Miss Joyful, the recruiter, who's always spitting some great facts and gems on LinkedIn. I am honored and it is a privilege, madam. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you so much, Dana.
Good. All right. So if you've been on the show, like you watched the show, I know you were in the audience for Career Hacker Nate last week. Oh, the
Yeah.
chat already lighting up with woo joy. Okay. So we've got a lot of people watching. Um, you know how we get this thing started. Have you ever been hilariously unemployed, Joy?
I have twice.
Okay, so I
Believe
don't
it
have to boo you like I booed Nate.
I know Nate's unique, but yes, I've been through two layoffs actually. So one was early in my career.
Mhm,
I ended up being unemployed for 15 months, and trust me, it wasn't from a lack of trying. At the time, I didn't have a college degree, which made
mhm.
getting back into recruiting challenging, especially with an employment gap. So I even got to the point where I was ready to go sell cars or find jewelry. Thankfully, someone took a chance on me, which
Mhm.
led me actually to the company where I spent nearly 10 years.
Wow. So you would have been Joy, the joyful car salesperson, Joy, the
Something
joyful
like
jeweler.
yeah, Joy the joyful engagement saleswoman or something. So yeah.
I think you could have made anything work, honestly, if you bring joy to your work all of the time. I love that, though. Thank you so much for sharing a bit about
Yeah.
your unemployment story. I do want to ask another question. Do you feel that college degrees play that same role now for recruiters? or do you feel that it's more about experience these days?
Yes and no. This is what I'll say. These are just my personal thoughts. I value higher education. However, I don't think you need a degree to be a recruiter or a great salesperson. Um, so I think because of what has happened with the cost of a higher education,
Mhm.
and people are also realizing that ultimately it's a form of gatekeeping. I think there's is a little more lenience and flexibility when it comes to
Mhm.
that. But at the same time, a lot of times, if, and this is just the truth, if you have a college degree, you will get your foot in certain doors.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter what the degree is in, what the school is. Some companies just want to see that you have a degree. And I'm like, well, how are you placing value on it that much if it doesn't matter what the degree is in? You just care that I went to a place and did a thing.
True. But I will say this, my employer funded my higher education, not my current employer, but my
Mhm.
past. So I am fortunate. I have never had student debt, and I graduated with honors. I was very driven to do it. So I would say if if you don't have the means and you can find an employer to pay for you to go to college, do that.
Make them pay, y'all. I actually graduated with my first and only degree last year. I decided to go back
Woo!
due to the pandemic because
Congrats.
I was just in a state of like, I want to continue learning. And I dropped out when I was 18. I had just gone to college and I was like, this is not for me. And I got right to work, right? And then as I progressed in my life, my motherhood, and my just maturity, as I'm working in different roles, because I'm working in DEI and I'm constantly learning and educating people, I was like, oh, I just need something else. I want to learn some more. And
Mhm.
that's when I was like, let me just see if they'll take me back with my 2.2 GPA. And they did. And I graduated with honors, summa cum laude.
Woo!
So, it is doable. And I am very excited that I have my degree, but I know there are so many industries that don't require it. So for job seekers, it's great to have, but it's not something that you have to have in order to get to work. All right, Joy.
I
So
agree.
let's talk a little bit about your first layoff story. When it first happened to you, how did it go down? Were they kind? Were they empathetic? Or did you get an email or a last minute calendar invite like some folks are?
So the first one that I went through, at the time, my manager was in a different office, and she said, I'm coming up to the LA office." And I remember thinking, this is it. Because I'm like, there's no reason for her to come to the office. And so she let me know that I wasn't the only recruiter, actually, because the company was being sold or acquired. But I was one of the first ones because based on my geographic location, I was earning more than my counterparts. So, um, I mean, it was a little shocking, but it was expected. But at the same time, the way it was handled, and I won't go into those details because ultimately, who cares? But um, it was not handled well. And when I hear people getting laid off over Zoom, like a 5-minute conversation or a mass email, it's just really egregious, in my opinion. And the way that there's no great way to handle layoff because ultimately you're losing your income and your
Mhm.
livelihood. But at the same time, there is still a way to go about it. I mean, the second layoff I went through, I at least had a 2-week notice. So, which I think
Yeah.
is somewhat unique actually, but
It
you know.
is. It is. 2 weeks is unique. Usually, the people that they're telling, they're like cutting off access as soon as that call goes off and you're out the door. For me, my situation was different. They let me know, but then they let me know they wanted me to stay on for a couple more months to finish up some projects. I was nominated for an award. So that was a very weird space to be like there, but not really there. Like I'm here,
Right.
but I know I'm not gonna be here. So what are we even doing? Okay. So yeah, it can be very impersonal. So if your boss is calling saying, "Hey, I'm coming through today," you never come here. Why are you doing that?
Exactly.
We talked a lot about the writing on the wall with Career Hacker Day, and that could truly be a sign that something is not great, or maybe they just like you and want to come see you. But the truth is, you just got to keep your head on the swivel because the job market changes so rapidly. Okay, so you talked about being laid off as a part of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like for you to be laid off during a time where everything was so uncertain? And how did you keep yourself up, like, and motivated to keep going? Because right now we're honestly in a place of uncertainty as well. So I know for job seekers, it's compounded stress for them. How did you navigate that in a pandemic?
Sure. So this was my second layoff. In 2022, I was told 2 weeks before April 1st that most likely I was being laid off. Now, honestly, I think my employer panicked. But looking back, it was one of the best things that could have happened to me. Sure, I would have preferred to make that decision myself, but ultimately it led me to a better place financially. So thank you, former employer. Like they say, rejection is redirection. But
Hey,
I mean, thank you.
thank you for
Next.
redirecting Joy for more money. Sometimes we don't know that it's going to end up so well. And when we're in the thick of
It's
it,
true.
we're
It's
like,
true.
this is going to be terrible for me, but it ends up being a blessing sometimes. So,
But you know what I'll say? That second layoff, it affected how I view career security. Um, it changed my perspective. I learned there's no such thing as job security, but I can be the CEO of my own career. So I refused to settle for the first offer I got. I've even posted about this because
mhm,
I had spent nearly 10 years at the same job. I had been out of the job market for a long time.
mhm,
So there was a pandemic. Then this particular company, I knew the owner, he wanted to hire me, but wanted me to commute to his office every day. And when I asked him why, his response was, "Well, I'm old school." And then he wanted to pay me less than I was even making. And I'm like, no, this is a new day. This is a new decade. I can't go out like that. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to be patient. So in the meantime, I started using LinkedIn to network. I had
mhm,
only used it just for recruiting purposes before. And I've met some of the best people, including yourself, Dana. But I've truly, in the last 4 years, have met some amazing people just from putting myself out there and being open. And
mhm,
also, like you, I have a non-traditional educational background. So in 2019, I graduated with my degree, but I knew that wasn't it. And I
mhm,
said, I have to keep leveling up. So I invested in myself and I obtained career coaching and I also attended LinkedIn Lives and it's just even though not to dismiss that the pandemic was a difficult time for a lot of people, including myself. Nevertheless, that really helped change my career trajectory in a lot of ways and improved my career from a financial standpoint.
Absolutely. It looks like, that layoff got you popping, okay? Because you're in my life, you're in everybody's life on LinkedIn. Like your posts come across with a big picture, and I'm like, what Joy got going on over here? So let's talk a little bit about that because I love that you said the CEO of your own career, and someone in the comments actually mentioned that. Shout out to Joy's audience because not only have y'all showed up, y'all are like, sorry for being late. Hello, good afternoon. So welcome to the Hilariously Unemployed, y'all. Follow me. Welcome. Joy, let's talk about being the CEO of your own career and the brand of Joy, the Joyful Recruiter. How did this happen?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, I will say some of it is very calculated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like putting my full name on any form of social media because I believe even in this world where everyone knows everything about everybody, there's still a sense of anonymity that you should maintain. But nevertheless, I wanted something that had a ring to it or would get people's attention. So I'll never forget. I was in a LinkedIn Live with mainly HR women, and we were in little breakout rooms. And I said, I don't know what to write on LinkedIn. I mean, I know some things, but I don't know it all. And someone said to me, that's what you write. And of course, I was so intimidated by the whole thing because, I mean, I'm not going to lie. We all love when we get tons of likes. And if we get like 5, sometimes we question ourselves. But then, of course, I learned there's a formula to this whole thing. But really putting myself out there and saying, providing the advice that I wish someone had given me years ago. I never had a mentor because I didn't go the traditional route of college, even though I did work some internships years ago in my other life. But still, I didn't have that linear path that a lot of people have. So, building my brand, I always feel like my brand is me. Because as we know, there's so much uncertainty in this world, especially when you are an employee.
Yeah.
You still have to have that brand. If you decide to part, your identity should not be your employer.
Yeah.
And I say that with my full chest.
Hey, I made that mistake and never again. So, this brand goes everywhere that I go. Personal branding is so important and it comes up time and time again on the show because people are looking for you in a media format. They are looking for you in a social media format. And if you have nothing there, then I'm sorry. You're probably not going to get that call back. This week, I actually did some contract work for a company. They were looking to, they're hiring a summer intern and they wanted me to go through all the resumes and figure out who was going to be the best candidate for the job. And although they are interns, they go to Drexel. So I'm like, let's look at these LinkedIn's. Don't like, okay, first things first, y'all need to optimize these.
Yes.
You need to optimize these. So for the students who did have the LinkedIn's on, of course, I was like, okay, this is great because they're already on everybody else's social media. So why wouldn't you be promoting yourself and your career and starting to promote your future career here on LinkedIn? Because the earlier you get started, the further you will go. Like I work really hard at LinkedIn and I still only have maybe 3,500 followers. But had I started way back when, just on here chitter chattering, it would be so much more now. So you really have to get started and let the thing work. Joy, we know that this show is dedicated to the job seekers. And who am I to have Joy, the Joyful Recruiter, on my show and not tell the people some of the to-dos and to-don'ts of job seeking? What's some of the advice that you can offer to candidates looking to build genuine connections with folks like you?
All right. So I like to say, consider what you can offer first. And that was my approach. Granted, I think people should be very transparent. But so if you're looking for a job, make it clear in your message. Mention the role or skill sets you will bring, but don't send generic requests to recruiters. Uh, Hard truth, most recruiters are not going to respond to your emails or your request to connect. That's just how it is. But a lot of them do, including me. So take the time to write a thoughtful note about why you want to connect, whether it's for a job or to grow your network. A personal touch goes a long ways. Now, this is what I'll say is a big don't. I am growing very fond of AI. I think it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But before you hit that send, make sure your message doesn't sound like an actual robot wrote it. Avoid long, overly formal messages that feel impersonal. And remember, most recruiters, they are not headhunters.
Yeah.
In-house recruiters receive tons of applications and typically focus on specific roles. For example, I'm a sales recruiter in the tech industry. So if you ask me to help you find an operations manager position or warehouse role, I can't really help you. I might be kind enough to point you in the right direction, but at the same time, make sure that the recruiter is recruiting in your field. And also back to those AI messages. Oh my God, I've gotten some hilarious ones. Somebody told me they were some sort of job terminator. I really didn't understand where they were going with that. I'm like, maybe I need to like hit up Arnold Schwarzenegger. I have no idea what they're trying to
The
communicate.
Terminator. I'm here to take
Yeah,
your job away.
it was funny. And then one was like, I'm very impressed by your work at it was one of these organizations that I'm a member of. So I played along. I was like, well, what has impressed you about my contribution there? Please tell me. And so the person, it was kind of funny. They're like, honestly, I don't know. AI wrote this for me. I'm like, well, at least
Your honesty after you got caught up. Listen, you have got to check your AI, man. Like, I tell mine, like, speak in my voice. And sometimes it's too much in my voice. I'm like, oh, my voice should not be in print because I just be saying whatever. And I'm like, wait. Make it in my voice, but polish it up a little bit.
Yeah, AI got really sassy once when I said to speak in my own voice. And I'm like, all right, AI knows me a little too well. This is scary. Let me close my laptop.
Yeah, it is because I'm putting in the transcripts from my podcast after I do them. So it really has my voice. And I'm like, y'all, I'm not reaching out to somebody in the email the same way I'm talking on my show. I'm not always the big speaker. Sometimes I have to be Dana Duckworth and a little more formal than on my podcast platform. And AI is just like, what's up, y'all? Like, no.
Yeah. But AI is funny. I'm embracing it actually.
I mean, I feel like you have to at this point. You can be mad for however long you want to, but you are going to miss out on so many things as an entrepreneur and a person who is one of one in my own organization. It's literally my assistant and helps me do so many things through my day. Nate was saying that he says good morning to his. I haven't gotten that familiar yet, but like it is truly an instrument. It is the second employee at Speak Up Dana organization because it works just as hard as I do to make all of this happen. If I didn't have it, I would not be able to do half of the things that I do. So you did hit on this a little bit, Joy, when you talked about you need to figure out who the recruiter is actually recruiting for. And also, there are multiple recruiters at organizations, and not every recruiter in that organization is recruiting for the same department. So just kind of getting more familiar with that. But what are some other misconceptions job seekers have about the role of recruiters, and how can they navigate the recruiter candidate relationship more effectively?
Sure, that's a great question, Dana. So one of the biggest misconceptions is that recruiters can magically find you a job. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So in-house recruiters are assigned to specific positions or requisitions, and they fill these based on their company's needs. While agency recruiters focus on fulfilling the needs of their clients. So if they're working on a role that aligns with your background, then that's great. They can help you. But ultimately, our job isn't to find jobs for people. That's not what we do. It's to meet the needs of our hiring managers or clients. So while we'd love to help everyone, we're working within those boundaries. So just remember that. However, I will say this. If someone approaches me respectfully with a kind message, and they're looking for guidance, because I understand sometimes it's hard to navigate this, I will set aside some time and speak with them and get on Zoom and just try to find out what it is they're looking for. Now, as I mentioned before, if it's something really off the beaten path that I don't really, that's not in my wheelhouse, that's going to be harder. If you come to me and you want to get advice on how to get into sales, or how to become a recruiter, which I don't know how many people want to do that right now, but
It's rough out here.
yeah, I don't know how many people still want to be in recruiting, but get into HR, or how to get into tech, then I am open to having that conversation with you. Just full disclosure, I just returned to work not that long ago because I was diagnosed with breast cancer 9 months ago, 9 months yesterday. So, I went back to work in the middle of September, and I'm still adjusting. And I did, in fact, miss having those conversations or coffee chats with people, because sometimes people just need someone to point them in the right direction, because it can be overwhelming. But, I hope as my health returns and I start to feel better, that I can start having those coffee chats with job seekers in the near
Joy,
future.
thank you so much for being so candid and sharing about your health. Of course, I was privy to that information and you have shared some things on social media, but I'm just so grateful that you felt you could share that here on my platform. I don't take it lightly. And I know when I reached out to you last year and you share with me, like, hey, there's some health things going on. I can't even talk about being on a show. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm just happy that I could be in your world, girl. So when you reached out to me, it was like, Dana, I'd like to talk to you. I'm like, you can talk to me about anything whenever. What do you mean? I want to be on your show. You want to be on my show? I want you to be on my show. What you mean you want to be on my show? Why are you asking me? Tell me.
Yes. Yes. Thank
So
you.
I'm so grateful that you came here to the Hilariously Unemployed. But being away with the health issue is another way of not being unemployed, but you are separated from work. What has that separation from your day to day been like for you? And how are you ramping yourself back up to be Joy, the joyful recruiter again?
I love that question. So I had to really prioritize what was important to me. Thank you, Kelly. Um, because I had already manifested that 2024 was going to be my year.
Mm-hmm.
And there was only one thing that I anticipated to be stressful, but I won't discuss that. But when I received my diagnosis, it was like, wow, all the plans and things I've made for this year, they're going to have to go on the back burner.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I I took time away. Once I went on medical leave, I was not posting on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
because I had to really focus on me. And yes, there were certain aspects that I missed, but for the first time in many, many years, my career was not my focal point. And to be perfectly honest with you, I had to focus not only on my physical health, but my mental health. And because I didn't have all these distractions that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really took time to work on me as a person and improve certain things that were not working right. Some things have really transpired for the best in my career. Um, they were outside of my control, but sometimes the universe is listening. And so there are certain things that happen that definitely worked in my favor. So I'm grateful to still have an employer, because a lot of people don't after they go through a health crisis. My journey is not over by any means. Just because I return to work or I'm on LinkedIn that does not mean I'm not still dealing with my breast cancer battle, but I'm just hoping that my journey will be over in the new year.
Well, I and so many other folks are right here in support of you and rooting for you. And whether you're on LinkedIn or not, we know that Joy, the Joyful Recruiter, will be in full effect whenever she can. So take your time, take care of yourself. Your mental health is the priority because it's going to feed your physical health. And if you want to have a coffee chat with anybody with our bonnets on or with our cameras off and you just want to chill, I'm here for it. But thank you so much for sharing that, Joy. And I was so happy to see your face back on LinkedIn. I'm not gonna lie. I saw that picture.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hope to start posting again soon. So just, preparing myself. But yes, I miss being in these LinkedIn streets.
I know. It is fun. Like, listen, I wake up in my bed and I'm like, before Instagram, before Facebook, LinkedIn, what y'all got going on here? Because sometimes there's some
Exactly.
ridiculous things happening. Sometimes there's some things that are really great and you want to celebrate. But scroll on there and I said, what y'all got going on in these LinkedIn streets today, honey? And it's always something going on in the LinkedIn streets.
True. True.
Hey, Joy, I want to thank all of your supporters who are here in the chat. They are praying for you to be in good health, sending you lots of love, are here in support of you.
Yeah.
All right. So how important do you think it is for candidates to craft a story when they are trying to get a role?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely important to I think you have to move intentionally. That's what I would say. So, being intentional is a part of crafting that story, whether you are looking to transition to a new industry or you are trying to pick up the pieces after you've been laid off or whatever the case may be. So, I think you have to go in, as I said, being intentional. And why I say that, that was something I used to just kind of wing things because, one of the bad things I think about being from LA is you kind of go with the flow. And I kind of go with the flow. And, oh, yeah, well, I landed in HR and then I landed in recruiting. I got this job. And I realized I was not being intentional at all. So I would say move with intention, know what you're looking for, be decisive. Sometimes you need help understanding what it is you want. But if you don't know what you truly want, like I've had people say, well, yeah, I'm going to get into sales and I want to work in sales, but what I really want to do is this or that. And I'll ask them, well, why do you want to get into sales? Because I already know the answer. You don't want to get into sales. You just think, well, how hard can it be? I can do it and make some money. But it's like, and I have told people that is not your passion. You're not passionate about that. Don't do it because guess what? You're not going to succeed. If you go through like sales, and I'll use it for an example, it is one of the hardest things to truly succeed in. If you don't have that fire in your belly or the passion, and I told someone earlier this year, I said the reason why you're not moving to the next interview because the recruiter already knows this is not your passion.
Yeah.
They know you don't want to be here. You know you don't want to be here. So, and I always preface it by saying, I know you got to pay bills, you got to feed your family, you need a roof over your head, but you really need to be intentional about what you are pursuing because you're not going to be successful in it if it's not something you truly enjoy doing.
Absolutely. Sales is not for the meek or the weak, y'all. You really have to have the personality to be a sharp salesperson. I worked in sales for longer than I like to have. it is hard, and you have to have mental fortitude because there are some very high peaks. Like when you are killing it, performing, you hit those quotas, you feel so amazing. And then that month rolls over, or whatever your sales cycle is rolls over, and you're down again. So you have to be so resilient in sales that one minute you might be on the top, the next minute you might be on the bottom, and it's constant. Like it's not a project that you work until completion and then you get to see the fruits of it. Sales is constant grind every single day. I was good at it. I'd say I was successful at it because I enjoyed the relationship building aspect, but I'm sure my employer would have liked me to build those relationships faster. But I'm like, I'm just real. Like I'm a genuine person, so I can build those relationships. The transactional portion will come with time, but I really focused on the relationship building. They probably were like, girl, get the sale, get the sale. It was coming and it was going to be a big one, but it takes time. So if you are not truly passionate about sales, if you don't have a sales personality, like be clear. If you don't have a sales personality, because the amount of communication, conversations, things that you may or may not want to talk about that you have to do with your clients in order to get the sale, with your prospects, because they're not even clients at this time, it requires a lot. And if you don't have that, and you're like Joy said, you are not going to succeed. And we know salespeople make good money, but you could be there not making any money because you're not good at it.
Exactly. And that goes for a lot of different things. Like sometimes, because we all can experience burnout in our chosen career. I've gone through stages where I had to really rethink, is recruiting what I truly want to do? Is it something that I'm still passionate about? Ultimately, it still is, but you know, I have other passions too.
And that's okay. I like to say, I'm every woman. It is all in me. I do a lot of things. Some of them I do really well and get paid for, and others of them, like this podcast, I'm just so passionate about. So eventually I'll get paid for it, right? We are not just one thing. So if you want to recruit, you want to do personal branding, you want to support job seekers one-on-one, whatever it is, you have this brand that allows you to do more than one thing. Now, Joy, when it comes to job seekers identifying companies that truly value DEI, because I know me and you are very passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, how can they quickly identify those? Because there's a lot going on in that interview process. Other than just figuring out if the company is paying lip service or not, what are some indicators they should be looking for?
I love this question because it is something I'm very passionate about. So I would say look at the company's leadership. Every company has a website. Most companies have a LinkedIn presence. See who's in the C-suite and see who the other leaders are. If these leaders look like a monolith, that tells you a lot. Every company is at a different stage in their DEIB journey, but the ones that genuinely value diversity will have leaders from various backgrounds, not just in lower roles or within the rank and file. Another tip I would say is to look at diversity across different teams, not just isolated departments. When interviewing, instead of asking vague questions like, what's your culture like? You can ask. The career side, mentioned a commitment to diversity and inclusion, because we've seen a lot of that in the last 4 years. But the question you should ask, can you share specific examples of this? Their answer will tell you if it's genuine or if they're just being performative or checking a box.
It's also important for those who are hiring to be well versed in the DEI initiatives inside of your company, because the last thing you want to do, although you should be passionate about DEI as well, as a recruiter or a hiring manager or anybody that is a part of that candidate experience, is to have them ask you a question like that and you don't have the answer because you're not focused on DEI in your organization. So that's sending them a signal that if the person who wants me to join this organization doesn't even know what they do in regards to DEI, how could I ever be a person that wanted to join this organization and truly succeed? Because the people who are allowing others into the organization don't even know what's going on. So it's very important that anybody in your hiring process has an advanced education on what it is you do, what the culture of your organization is, what you support outside of your organization. If you have any ESR initiatives, if you support any nonprofits, any employee resource groups, anything you have, especially if you have a separate diversity mission, they're going to tell the candidate the regular mission and the values and the pillars of your company. They should also be including that to make sure it's a very rounded candidate experience, because you don't want someone to self-eliminate because you haven't taken the time to really educate yourself on what's going on inside of a place that you already work. Joy?
Well, yeah. And I want to add, I want to add something to that. And this is for recruiters and hiring managers. Be honest. I know people have said during interviews when candidates have asked that, we are still early. And there are a lot of things that we're doing, but we haven't done everything, or we're working towards this. I would say do not pander to candidates when they ask you those questions, because that's almost, to me, the worst thing you can do. So just be honest about it, because there is always an answer to that question. So, and like you said, Dana, if it's not answered properly, candidates will self-eliminate. So yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Joy. Now, we know that everything is ever changing in the economy, and that, of course, impacts everything in career and the job seekers world. With the job market currently evolving and constantly changing, what are some of the biggest trends and shifts you see in recruitment and hiring practices up ahead?
So there are so many, and we don't have time to touch on every one. But what I have said, and I have noticed this as a recruiter for over a year now, possibly going on to the market, as you know, is super competitive. That's not a revelation to anyone. But depending on the role, there can be hundreds of applicants, not 800, hundreds. Recruiters still actively search for candidates or source, especially for niche roles. But now we're seeing more and more qualified people who are applying. So this is what I'll say. That's why networking and an online presence, they're so important. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to go out there and become an influencer just to obtain employment. But engaging in professional communities and showcasing your skills online, it can make a difference. I would say, not everyone can afford to go to conferences, and especially if you are a job seeker, that might not be a possibility. But you can engage in things like this. I have met some of the best people through LinkedIn Lives, and just as simple as putting your link, asking people to connect with you and having meaningful conversations and learning about other companies and what they have in store. Because yes, you can do all the things and follow all the advice, but at the end of the day, what's realistic is, unfortunately, not every recruiter is going to respond to you. You should apply, because ultimately you're going to need to apply for the job that you're being considered for. But you need to think of ways to really get in front of those recruiters and those hiring managers. And I understand a lot of you needed a job yesterday. So sometimes you don't have time to plant those seeds. But I will say, start planting those seeds now. Prepare yourself for unemployment. And it's not because it's doom and gloom. At some point, we might all become unemployed. So you have to sow those seeds early and start building those relationships and prepare just in case you might not have a job in another week, month, or year.
Yeah, unfortunately, you might not have a hilarious unemployment story today, but you could have one tomorrow.
Exactly.
It's not funny, but it is. Like, we gotta laugh at it, y'all, to get through it. Joy, you have been such a joy. I really want to thank you. so much for taking the time to speak with me on this platform and bringing your amazing, super supportive audience. Y'all are awesome. They had so many great things to say in the chat. Joy, I am, of course, going to continue to keep you in my thoughts and prayers as you go about your journey, and I'll be on the lookout for you. Will you be at Afrotech next week? I know you said you may or may not.
I might. I just
Okay.
might.
Well, if you are there, we definitely have to make sure we get together so I can get one of those big old pictures to put on LinkedIn that Joy posts, because it's gonna be such a joy to see you. I was actually talking to Get Me Hired Christy earlier, and
Oh,
she
I
was
love
saying,
her.
she was like, "We all are so connected," and I was like, "Hey, I'm just getting here, but I love all y'all."
Hey, we are happy to have you part of the fold. I met
Yeah.
her in person last year along with the recruiter cousin and a few other people. It was just great putting those LinkedIn profiles, meeting these, putting the names with
Mhm.
the faces and everything. So that's the beauty of these conferences.
I
Absolutely.
know. I know.
I hope to be there next week, and yes, I will definitely be hitting you up if I happen to make it. But yeah, this has been great, and I also, not only do I want to thank you, I want to thank the audience that came out to support. I have not done this in quite a while, so in a way, it is kind of like a comeback, and I hope to just progress. My health progresses in the right direction, and I can continue to share my thoughts, and I hope it was helpful also.
Oh, it for sure was helpful. You dropped a lot of gems. Thank you for trusting me to be a part of your comeback story. Is there anything you want folks to know, anywhere they can find you, any other social handles,
Yeah.
projects, products, services, whatever you want the folks to do after whatever the CTA is? Let them know, Joy.
Sure. Well, I think a lot of the people in the audience are already connected to me on LinkedIn, but
Mhm.
if you aren't, please feel free to connect with me. I'm also on Instagram at Joyful Recruiter. So if you'd like to follow me on there, I will be perfectly honest. I haven't been as active on social media, but that will change. I'm just getting warmed up. So please connect with me, follow me, shoot me an email. I have a premium account, so it'll be free to
I
you.
do not. So connect with me and then shoot you.
Yeah, DM me. So thank you. This has been wonderful. Thank you again, Dana, and thank you so much, everyone who showed up on their Friday afternoon. I really appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Good stuff, y'all. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Hilariously Unemployed. I'm taking the week off because, as I told you at the top of the show, I'll be at Afrotech next Friday, but I will be back the Friday after that with more hilarious unemployment stories and resources for those who are hilariously unemployed. I've been your host and your favorite opportunity seeker, the Big Speaker. Bye.